DC Comics keeps forgetting its own characters, and it's a real problem. We're going to expose this trend by looking at lost heroes like Animal Man, Atom Smasher, and Coagula, and we'll dig into the confusing mess of retcons and reboots that are to blame. Kicking off our list is someone you might vaguely recognize, but probably couldn't tell much about. Animal Man, Buddy Baker, a seemingly ordinary guy turned extraordinary hero, can tap into the powers of any animal he can think of. The flight of an eagle, the super strength of a gorilla, the underwater breathing of a fish, you name it. He's basically a walking Swiss Army knife of animal abilities, a living conduit to the red, the morphogenetic field connecting all animal life. He even had a critically acclaimed run by the legendary Grant Morrison, who took Buddy on a mind-bending journey exploring themes of animal rights, environmentalism, and even the very nature of reality within the comic book medium. But despite this critically lauded run and the character's inherent potential for exploring relevant real-world issues, Animal Man just never quite cracked the A-list. Maybe DC thinks he's a bit of a knockoff, with other animal-themed heroes like Beast Boy and Vixen already established. Or perhaps his more mature Vertigo-era stories were deemed too niche for the mainstream. Whatever the reason, Animal Man, with all his power and depth, has been tragically relegated to the D-list, a forgotten hero in a universe that could desperately use his unique perspective. Next up is a hero who's definitely got the power, but maybe not the popularity, Atom Smasher. This guy is a literal giant in the DC universe, able to grow to the size of a skyscraper and packing a punch that would make even Superman think twice. We're talking about a hero who can trade blows with the strongest beings in existence. He's even been a member of both the Justice Society and the Justice League. But which Justice League, you ask? Well, his most notable stint saw him embroiled in the Black Adam and Isis arc, a morally complex storyline where he helped the JSA battle a rogue Black Adam, his former teammate, and a character Atom Smasher had a complicated relationship with. Despite these impressive credentials, his connection to Golden Age legacy heroes like the original Atom, his own godfather, and a fascinating, morally ambiguous turn, Atom Smasher consistently seems to get lost in the crowd. He's the ultimate team player, but he rarely gets the spotlight. Maybe he needs a new PR team, or maybe his full potential has yet to be unleashed. It's a shame, because a hero with this much power and this much history deserves to be more than just a background player. Ever feel like your favorite hero isn't quite the same anymore? You're not alone. DC has a long-standing habit of shaking things up with their characters, often giving them entirely new powers, tweaking their abilities, or completely rewriting their origin stories. These changes can happen gradually over time, or they can be the result of major universe-altering events. Take Wonder Woman, for example. For decades, her origin story was unique and magical. She was sculpted from clay by her mother, Queen Hippolyta, and given life by the Greek gods. But then, in a major retcon, she was made the daughter of Zeus and Hippolyta, a demigoddess with inherent powers. And it's not just her. In the Absolute Power storyline, heroes like Fire, Ice, and Black Canary had their powers completely swapped with one another, creating a bizarre and confusing situation for readers. These changes can be exciting, injecting new life into familiar characters, but they can also leave fans feeling confused, frustrated, or even betrayed when a beloved character's history is altered beyond recognition. It begs the question, how much can a character change before they become someone else entirely? Now we're going way back to the golden age of comics, dusting off a character who predates even Superman himself, Dr. Occult. This guy is one of DC's oldest heroes, a true relic of a bygone era. He's a master of magic, wielding powers like astral projection, telekinesis, and illusion creation, making him a formidable force against the forces of darkness. Dr. Occult has seen it all, even teaming up with Amethyst, Princess of Gemworld, during the reality-bending crisis on Infinite Earths to fight off an army of shadow demons. But despite his impressive pedigree, his long and storied history, and his undeniably powerful abilities, Dr. Occult has become a bit of a ghost himself, fading into obscurity in the 1990s as superhero trends shifted away from the mystical and towards the scientific. He's a character ripe for rediscovery, a link to DC's earliest days, yet he remains largely forgotten. Maybe it's time for a comeback, Doc? The DC universe could certainly use a touch of old school magic. This Doom Patrol member was a true trailblazer, a character ahead of her time. Coagula, also known as Kate Godwin, as one of DC's first transgender superheroes and a lesbian, she represented a bold step forward for LGBTQ+ representation in mainstream comics. Coagula possessed the fascinating power to solidify liquids and dissolve solids with a touch, a unique and potentially powerful ability that unfortunately wasn't fully explored. Created during writer Rachel Pollack's run on Doom Patrol, Coagula was a complex and compelling character who dealt with real-world issues of identity and acceptance alongside the team's usual surreal adventures. Sadly, her time in the spotlight was cut short when she was unceremoniously killed off in the 90s, a decision that likely reflected the unfortunate realities of the time regarding LGBTQ+ characters in comics. While she did make a brief welcome cameo in DC Pride 2022, Coagula remains largely absent from the DC universe, a powerful symbol of what could have been and a reminder of the importance of inclusive storytelling. Remember that time the Joker, the Clown Prince of Crime, the Harlequin of Hate, had a sidekick named Gaggy? Yeah, it happened, and it's as bizarre as it sounds. This little clown dude, Gagsworth A. Gagsworthy, to give him his full, ridiculous name, was a product of the campy 60s Batman era, an attempt to inject some more zany humor into the Joker's already chaotic world. His name, Gaggy, is, well, let's just say it's not the most intimidating moniker for a criminal, is it? It's hard to imagine striking fear into the hearts of Gotham's citizens with a name that sounds like a punchline. We all thought he disappeared for good, banished to the realm of forgotten comic book characters, but surprise, he actually made a comeback in a later comic, proving that no character, no matter how silly, is ever truly gone in the DC universe. Still, with a name like Gaggy and a legacy tied to one of the most lighthearted and often mocked periods of Batman's history, it's no wonder DC's been trying to keep him on the down low, a footnote in the Joker's long and twisted career. This creepy Batman villain is like a walking nightmare. He can manipulate his size, control technology, and even shoot fire and electricity from his fingertips. He even had these freaky seeds that gave people superpowers, but with a deadly catch. He seemed to die in a self-created star, but then popped up again in Task Force Z, revealing his connection to Lazarus Resin. Despite all this, Mr. Bloom remains relatively unknown. Maybe DC's just too scared to bring him back. This teenage hero had the power to create rifts in reality, basically teleporting wherever he wanted. He was like DC's answer to Spider-Man, with a cool costume and a fun personality, but his solo series was cut short, and he's been bouncing around in minor roles ever since. He even helped Red Canary fight living statues during Lazarus Planet. But sadly, it seems like DC's lost interest in this dimensional hopper. Retcons are a tricky business. Sometimes they're necessary to clean up continuity, but other times they can feel like a cheap way to change a character's history, and DC has definitely had its fair share of controversial retcons. Wonder Woman's origin, Hawkman's endless reincarnations, the whole reverse Flash causing Flash's worst moments thing, it can all get a bit messy. Maybe DC's hoping we'll just forget about those awkward early versions and embrace the new and improved, or not, versions. And the top spot goes to the ever-revolving door of DC reboots. Crisis on Infinite Earths, Zero Hour, Flashpoint, The New 52. The list goes on and on. These events have reshaped the DC universe time and time again, sometimes leaving fans scratching their heads trying to keep up. It's like DC's constantly hitting the reset button, hoping to create the perfect universe. But maybe they're forgetting that part of what makes comics so great is the rich history and continuity. Okay, I know I said top 10, but I couldn't resist a bonus entry. Pandora was introduced in the New 52 with a ton of hype. Cursed for opening Pandora's box, she was on a mission to take down the 7 deadly sins. She even had her own solo series, but it was canceled, and she was killed off in DC Universe Rebirth. Talk about a fall from grace. It's almost like DC's trying to erase her from existence entirely.
DC's new Absolute Comics are just the gift that keeps on giving. The Absolute Universe was created by Darkseid, a world where your favorite DC heroes don't have the advantages their Earth Zero counterparts do. So for Batman, that means he isn't rich, and that means he has to be way more resourceful to create all all of his bat gear. The Batman costume in this comic is absolutely incredible and so innovative. I love that his bat ears are actually knives. I love that he can stand on his cape like stilts, similar to how a bat walks, and I love that the bat symbol on his chest turns into an axe. Every part of this suit is useful, and it just shows how clever this version of Bruce Wayne is. He still follows Batman's golden rule, no fatalities, if he can help it. He would always hit just close enough though. The other notable difference between this Batman and the Batman we're used to is he still has his mom, and his dad passed in a very different setting. Thomas Wayne was Bruce's teacher. On a class trip to the zoo, someone opened fire and Mr. Wayne shoved his class into the bat exhibit, sacrificing his life for his students. The tragedy inspired Bruce's mission of justice. To gain the knowledge he would need for his mission, Bruce worked in almost every sector of the city, currently employed as an engineer. It's nice to know that even with all the odds stacked against our heroes, they still fight for good. Wonder Woman is also receiving the absolute treatment, with her first issue releasing just a few days ago. This Diana didn't have the advantage of growing up with the Amazons on Paradise Island. Instead, she grew up literally in hell. She was taken from the Amazons by Zeus and brought down by Apollo to be raised by Circe on the wild Isle of Hell. This was a form of punishment towards the Amazon, as they committed some unspecified crime against the gods, but it must have been really bad considering it was also decreed that the word Amazon must never be spoken again. Diana still grew up with all the same powers she normally would, making friends with many demons along the way, but she never knew why she was the way she was. It wasn't until she matured that she went to her mother Circe and began asking about the forbidden word that she may never have heard but felt beating in her chest. Though Circe couldn't say it, she encouraged Diana to say what she was, told her about her heroic sisters, and ultimately let Diana go to become Wonder Woman. Absolute Wonder Woman fights to protect Earth from harbingers, preventing them from consuming the world. She fights with the Athena blade and her skeletal, fire-breathing Pegasus. The final panel of Absolute Wonder Woman features Diana in all her glory, wielding a new lasso, the Nemesis lasso. It's red, and according to writer Kelly Thompson, it dulls out more pain than the lasso of truth, and likely we will read about its origins soon. And finally, to complete this trio, Absolute Superman. Now we know significantly less about Absolute Superman simply because his comic isn't out yet. There is a preview available, and from that we learn that instead of Superman's parents, particularly his mother, being respected scientists and scholars, they were Kryptonian farmers in the part of town that the upper class don't often worry about. This Superman will still likely lose his parents because the tagline for his story is, "This Superman has no family, no fortress of solitude, and no home." So just going out on a limb here, but I think he's gonna lose him. The Superman that comes to Earth will also apparently be an adult upon arrival, and that's very, very different from most depictions of the character. Baby Superman obviously knew that something bad happened to his world and eventually learned what it was in full. But adult Superman will crash onto the scene with that anger fresh in his mind. So the big question is, will he use it for good or not? From the Wild Wild West comes Marilyn Moonlight, a vigilante active back when Metropolis was just a little frontier town. At first, Marilyn was just a regular citizen, but then an outlaw rolled into town and was causing trouble. The outlaw was defeated by two people from the future, a man who could fly and a woman on a glowing horse. Marilyn saw the mysterious woman and was inspired to protect the little town, becoming the spirit of Metropolis. Little did she know, the future people turned out to be Superman and Marilyn. Behind every strong woman is herself. Marilyn lived a long life and passed peacefully surrounded by love, but then of course that can't last long. There is no peace for heroes, not even in death. She was resurrected as a ghost, and for her troubles she received light-based powers that work best when manipulating moonlight. The catch is she can only exist in the dark. Marilyn dropped in early 2023, and I hope that they find ways to keep bringing her back. Ranadorda and his flaming puppy Cadeo have leapt on the scene, literally. Ranadora means golden frog in Spanish. This new hero was teased in 2023's Batman Superman World's Finest 2021 in November of last year, but he was literally just shown in a big group and had a short moment fighting our leading heroes when they were on Earth 22. His Prime Earth counterpart didn't appear until Absolute Power 3 from earlier this year. Ranadorda seems to be a skilled acrobat and fearless, stepping up to the plate to fight against Amanda Waller's propaganda and help out the heroes. His fire dog is based on a spirit from Central American folklore. There is a protector version of this spirit, but also an evil version, which hopefully hopefully Rana Dorita gets more panel time and the evil dog is used somewhere in a story. Another new hero was teased alongside Rana in the world's finest comic. Her hero suit takes after a jaguar, and her name is Baruka. The name is inspired by the Baruka, an indigenous group living in Costa Rica. It seems like her jaguar suit is a suit. It has sharpened claws, and she is clearly very agile and strong considering she can jump so high. Even less is known about this hero than Dorita. She has literally appeared the one time, but since he got a hero feature later, hopefully she'll also get one in the future. I mean, there is the Justice League-esque team that already exists in Mexico, so maybe she could team up with them. Wonder Woman's daughter Trinity has been officially introduced into Prime Earth. Now, you might already know her from the backup comics in Wonder Woman Volume 6, but technically that version of her was from a possible future, and that possible future is now possibly confirmed canon. The Trinity comic in Wonder Woman 13 is her origin story as explained by Damian Wayne, and then the next issue's main story shows Wonder Woman actually molding Trinity from the clay and asking for life to be bestowed upon her. Will this Elizabeth actually grow up to be the Trinity from the backup stories that wields the three lassos of fate, or will she end up completely different? It remains to be seen. Jenny Crisis is the latest Century baby, the spirit of the 21st century born on the stroke of midnight New Year's Day 2000. Century babies are born at the beginning of a century that eventually grow up to have superhuman abilities, and their job is to change the world, and they don't usually age past their 20s. Jenny is taking her role as the 21st century baby very seriously. She is determined to leave the century better than she found it. At first, she did more harm than good because she didn't know who she was. She would have a panic attack and then something really bad would happen somewhere in the world. Eventually, she put the pieces together and decided to take some time to herself to sort that out. Like most century babies, Jenny is abnormally strong and can listen to the world, enabling her to locate those in trouble no matter where they are. She can fire blasts of emotional energy and make those around her feel what she feels. This year, Jenny had a bad breakup and accidentally caused the world to effectively break for 2 days, but then the outsiders showed up to neutralize her. Jenny proved that she wasn't a threat, and she is now continuing her journey of self-discovery. She debuted in February of this year. DC once again drew some inspiration from history for Joker, the world this year, this time creating the Polish hero Zawiza Black Knight, defender of Krakow, based on the real Polish knight, the Black of Garbo. The knight passed in the early 1400s, but DC seems to suggest that his legacy, or he, lives on. In this Joker short story, Joker is attempting to steal a famous painting of a clown, only to be stopped in his tracks by the Black Knight. His suit is fashioned to look like armor, and he wields a very sharp sword. He is not Batman, or a version of Batman, which he explicitly says, along with a promise that he doesn't have the no fatality rules, so the Joker better watch out. And finally, also from Absolute Batman, is a brand new super cool version of Alfred Pennyworth. Now, Alfred has always been that guy. He has always been good at everything he does, and there have been plenty of versions of him that have a past of being some kind of hero in his own right, but it simply never gets old. So in Absolute Batman, Alfred is a special agent for a British organization. We don't know which one yet. His current assignment is to return to Gotham City to gather intel on the Party Animals, the villainous group of the hour. He is highly trained in every form of combat, weaponry, he has a pretty sick motorcycle. Since this universe is meant to strip our heroes of all their advantages, Alfred doesn't know Bruce Wayne. In fact, he fought Batman on a rooftop and has been tasked with removing Batman from the picture, so he's really not on his side. And I'm excited to see that change, because there's already signs of a change of heart in the comic, which will be interesting to read.
Captain Atom is a hero that DC seemingly stopped caring about in 2011, which is also wild to think about when you realize just how powerful this guy is. Captain Atom is like Shazam in the sense that they were both characters DC amalgamated from other publishers. Shazam came from Fawcett Comics, whereas Captain Atom came from Charlton Comics, which by the way is the same publisher that Peacemaker also initially hailed from. But while Peacemaker has only become more relevant with time thanks to his amazing HBO Max and DC live action series, Captain Atom has become less and less relevant, sadly. He was considered a powerhouse back in the day, capable of reconstructing matter, self-sustenance, teleportation, and even time manipulation, to name a few of his abilities. But you wouldn't know it to see him lately. He rarely appears now, and when he does, it's normally to get beat up by other folks who he should, in theory, outclass, like Gotham Girl and The Fraction. Are there any heroes who you feel have been disrespected like this? Let me know in the comments, because this always bothers me when stuff like this happens. Captain Atom also served as the inspiration for Watchmen's Dr. Manhattan, but today, Dr. Manhattan, I would say, is more well-known and more relevant than Captain Atom himself now is. Wild. Speaking of someone who is less relevant now than when they first appeared, Maxima was initially a villain in the comics somewhat before she became a hero. She was introduced to us as an alien attracted to Earth kind of by Superman, whom she sought to become her mate, abandoning her betrothed at the time, Ultra. She made her first appearance in the 90s and honestly was a super 90s character. Like, look at this costume. Look at her original New Earth costume. That was what she was, at least to start. In modern day, Maxima is still a queen and is an ally to Superman. She also ends up being in love with a woman and actually gets help from Wonder Woman to keep both her crown and her partner, but even then, that story actually happened back in 2020, so still, it's been a while. And that's with, once again, a Maxima who I feel like has been changed somewhat. This next character, who is someone who has been in and out of the spotlight for a while, swapping out now and then with another character who shares her hero name, is once again out of the spotlight. And I want to know, why can't we have both? When it comes to Huntress, it seems like we can only ever have one of them at a time for some reason. Now, don't get me wrong, I am a big fan of Helena Wayne, of which we now have a version back again in this new Golden Age. But where, oh where, is Helena Bertinelli? I feel like anytime one Helena is in, the other one has to be out. Look at how many Spider-Mans Marvel has. I mean, I think we can handle 2 Huntresses, no? I feel like DC is like, you can't, you'll be confused. I'm like, dude, if I can understand your continuity, I can understand anything. Anything. I could be a brain surgeon right now, but instead I read comics. The Huntress we are currently missing here is Helena Bertinelli, an ally of the Batman family and a member of the original Birds of Prey. Helena has sworn to fight against organized crime as part of a personal vendetta to get back at those who killed her family. She also has come into conflict with other vigilantes due to her willingness to kill her enemies, at least initially. As far as I can tell, the last major appearance of Bertinelli's Huntress was in the Shadows of the Bat event in 2022 when she appeared in Detective Comics. But yeah, I feel like since Helena Wayne has come back in, she's kind of taken more of a back seat. So even though she did appear in that event, it still feels like we haven't really seen her. She's not as prominent as she used to be. This next character was so far out of the continuity that when I started watching Arrow versus The Flash, I thought Cisco was a completely new character and hero who was made for this show. Yeah, that's how little I knew about this character, and I'm supposed to know everything about every character. Cisco Ramon in the Flash show is a member of Barry Allen's Team Flash. He eventually goes on to gain premonition powers which allow him to see into the future, which he calls vibing. He can basically like touch a person and kind of see into their future, taking the superhero name for himself of Vibe. In the series, Cisco gets his powers from the same event that granted Barry his, the particle accelerator explosion, at least initially. And I was surprised to learn that the character of Vibe was actually inspired by the original Vibe who appeared in the comics, or at least the Prime Earth version of Vibe, which was inspired by the original Vibe. The original comic book Vibe was Paco Ramon, whose powers were based in sonic waves, and who hails from the New Earth continuity. Now, the New 52 version from the Prime Earth continuity is Cisco Ramon, who first appeared back in 2012. He gets his powers from one of Darkseid's boom tubes, being exposed to the boom tube, which resulted in his DNA basically being rewritten, giving him powers. His powers are based on vibrational energy, allowing him to emit shock waves, but that's not all. He can also use his vibrational powers to sense and create holes in reality, allowing him to travel to other Earths. He can also vibe with people and get a sense of their past or present, but unlike the show, not their future. These next 2 heroes I'm going to talk about are a package deal. But we'll start off with the first one in the set, Hawk. Or at least the first one in terms of how most people order their names, I'd say. So, who is Hawk? He is one of the many Hank Halls to have existed over at DC Comics. Possibly one of the reasons why he's faded into the background. There's been a few Hank Halls, honestly. DC tends to shy away from characters who they think, like I said, might be too confusing. Huntress. Any Hank Halls, never seemingly considering that the continuity might be the most confusing thing for fans. Me included. Maybe you too. Hank's Hawk was initially paired up with his brother and is known as an avatar of war. There have been many Hawks since then, but they've pretty much all come and gone since they've been introduced, and now we're back to Hank. The last we saw of Hank, I believe, was in Batman the Brave and the Bold, where he appeared in a cameo capacity alongside the current Dove. Alongside Hawk is typically Dove, the Avatar of Peace. Initially, this was Hank's brother, Dawn. Then following Dawn's death, it became Dawn Granger, who is a girl, Dawn D-A-W-N, who would act as Dove opposite her sister, Holly Granger. Currently, Dawn as Dove works in tandem with Hank, who is Hawk once more. Dove also, I believe, hasn't been seen since her cameo appearance alongside Hank in Batman the Brave and the Bold, and like Hawk, she is also not a prominent hero at DC Comics in the current continuity. At least, I wouldn't consider them to be prominent myself. Some characters fade into the background over time, and some fade into the background only shortly after being introduced to us. I'm actually sad that this hero didn't end up making it as a mainstay. Sideways was one of the heroes we got from what was supposed to be a new era of superheroes. These were all original and new DC heroes created as part of an initiative to basically bring something fresh to the table. Fresh characters, fresh heroes, as opposed to just doing the same thing over and over again. Sideways was kind of similar to Marvel's Spider-Man in terms of his look and to a certain extent his personality. He was a young hero thrown into the world of superheroes, struggling to find his place, a sense of balance, and get a handle on his new teleportation-based powers. Derek James, as Sideways, had the main power of opening up rifts, in some cases interdimensional ones, which he could use to teleport him and others through. While a cool and promising character initially, he got his own self-titled series, but afterwards faded more into the background. His last appearance was more of a cameo and background one in the Dark Crisis event. This next hero hasn't even really got that courtesy though, it seems. For me, Dolphin is one of those characters that I feel like was really cool, and I'm always anticipating her return as a result because I just want to see more of her. But as far as I can tell, we haven't seen her since 2017 in the comics when she appeared in Volume 8 of Aquaman. Now granted, there is a possibility I could be wrong about this, or honestly any other character on the list, and if I am, I'm sorry, do let me know in the comments. I have an approximate knowledge of many things.
I have approximate knowledge of many things.
And the exact last appearances of characters, especially in the DC Comics world continuity, which are a little harder to verify without going back through every single issue from the publisher because of how information is categorized online. When it comes to Dolphin though, I know she is not well known enough for folks to know who I was talking about when I reacted to the Aquaman 2 trailer on my YouTube channel and incorrectly guessed that she might be the woman in the white costume who actually turned out to be Atlanta, Aquaman's mom. I thought maybe Queen Mara would die in the film and then Dolphin would basically come in to replace her as Aquaman's romantic partner. I was super psyched. I was like, oh my gosh, is Dolphin gonna be in this movie? Oh my gosh, I'm so ready. But I was very wrong about that. Still, Dolphin is a character I'd love to see more of in the DCU and in the comics. In the New Earth continuity, she is the result of an alien experiment, but in the Prime Earth continuity, she's an Atlantean. In both realities, she is an ally of Aquaman, and in the New Earth reality, she even ends up married to his adopted son, Tempest, with the two having a child together who's named Ceridian. Unfortunately, in that continuity, she and Ceridian perish when Atlantis is destroyed by the Spectre. Even in that continuity, she's gone. And in our continuity, we haven't seen her in a long time. Moving on, Aztec in the Prime Earth continuity was a hero who was introduced for one story arc in Justice League of America. Set up to be a much larger and important character in the canon, and then, without much warning, just faded into the background. Since then, she has made a few appearances in Wonder Woman. I will give you that she appeared in Tales of the Titans last September in issue number 3, but at the same time, this is after not appearing for a few years, and even then, her appearances have not really been major. Aztec is Nayeli Constant, who was given the power and responsibility of becoming a hero by her helm. As Aztec, she is tasked with continuing the ancient never-ending fight against the dark god Tezcatlipoca. I bet most people also didn't even know that she was a legacy hero. Yeah, she is. Before we had Nayeli, we also had Uno, who appears in both the New Earth and Prime Earth continuity. But despite DC trying to make Uno's Aztec a thing, it actually did not work out at all. He was only around for about 4 years, with him also getting his battle suit and helmet as well, and that's where his powers come from. They brought him back for the Prime Earth continuity, but only so they could basically kill him off, with Nayeli inheriting his helm, suit, and mantle, and I guess they were hoping, she could be Aztec, and maybe everyone will be into it, and then nothing really happened with Aztec. Finally, a few years back, DC hosted their Round Robin, where fans got to vote for which characters and teams would get comic series. One of the series I wanted to happen was focused on this hero, Captain Carrot. Captain Carrot is Rodney Rabbit. In the Prime Earth continuity, he is a Superman-like hero who hails from his own Earth, filled with other anthropomorphic animals like himself, Earth-26, formerly known as Earth-C back in the New Earth continuity. Needless to say, Captain Carrot did not make the cut for DC's round robin. I know I was one of the few that wanted that to happen, so I'm still waiting for him to come back into the spotlight again. He hasn't really been around in the comics since 2017, sadly.
First up, we have a pretty cool indigenous hero named Iraq Red Hand. He is from Earth 1, he's a demigod, and he was trapped in Europe. How did it happen? I'm so glad you asked. Iraq was the only survivor of the Kwatanaka people. He was found by some Vikings when he was in a canoe in the middle of the ocean. The Vikings rescued him, of course, and he was raised among them. When he was found, he was old enough to have already learned some life skills from his old family, but still, he trained with the Vikings and became a really good fighter. He went on a couple of adventures with the Vikings, and then his bad luck struck again, and his entire adopted family perished due to a sea serpent incident. He went on to join the court of the Holy Roman Emperor Charlemagne. He was still able to go on adventures and save people. He returned home to North America, good times all around. He is the son of Hino, who is the thunder god. He has a high number of appearances for being on this list at about 58. His main comic series is Eric, Son of Thunder from the 80s if you want to check it out. Two professors put their minds together and created a bunch of superpowered androids with the intention that they would destroy the Justice League. But Tomorrow Woman was having none of that, went rogue, and ended up joining the Justice League, so it could not have gone worse for those two scientists. Tomorrow Woman is known as Clara Kendall. Because of her android build, she is incredibly strong and fast and literally cannot get tired, just drained of power. She was also wired to be capable of telepathy and telekinesis and voice imitation. Her creators built the first Tomorrow Woman to see if their idea would work, essentially, so when she gained consciousness and sabotaged their plan, they were honestly just happy she fooled the League into thinking she was a real person. Tomorrow Woman ended up getting resurrected in a different universe where she became that universe's Superman. That's when she got the Clara Kendall name. Eventually, her reality was altered and she became human. She continued to be a hero and reporter. In total, we have about 28 appearances of her. From the Impact universe, we have Jaguar. College student Maria lived in Rio de Janeiro but came to study in the US. It runs in her family that some women have the ability to turn into a human jaguar. Lucky. Maria and her aunt both have this ability. Maria keeps the human shape in the transformations, but she gains claws, fangs, muscles, enhanced senses, and a fancy outfit. Her costume is enchanted, so whenever she transforms, it will come find her instantly. It also rarely rips. Jaguar ended up joining the hero group, the Crusaders, and ended up dating fellow hero, the Fly. Impact Universe Maria has about 24 appearances total. We have another human-animal hybrid in the house. Neptune Perkins is a human dolphin with sodium deficiency. So there's a lot happening here. Neptune is obviously an aquatic superhero. He debuted in 1945 in Flash Comics 66, and I don't think he survived Infinite Crisis, RIP Perkins. He has ties to the All-Star Squadron and Young All-Stars. Later in his life, he became a different kind of hero when he joined the Democratic Party and the US Senate for Hawaii. Neptune, he had a problem growing up though. He was lacking salt. A doctor literally told his dad when he was a baby that in order to live, he would need to exist in a salt bath or, as his dad discovered, the ocean. So the family packed up and moved to a houseboat in the Pacific. This is when Neptune learned to swim really fast. He got into undersea exploration, which caused him to meet the All-Star Squadron. It was around that time of his life that he found the holy grail of outfits for him, a suit that would distribute salt water around his body so he wouldn't need to stay so close to salty water all the time. And in total, Neptune has about 50 appearances. The character of Madame Fatale is kind of incredible, a real Mrs. Doubtfire of the DC universe. She never got popular. Well, he never got popular. Madame Fatale is actually Richard Stanton, an actor. Richard's daughter was kidnapped, so Richard went after her. He needed a disguise though, so he went with the last costume he wore on stage, which happened to be an old lady fit. In the world of the comic, Richard was a famous female impersonator. It really worked to his advantage because, personally, I would never expect the old woman next to me could throw me across a room. Richards is a vigilante fighting for good, so he's kind of like Batman. The cross-dressing plotline is unexpected but not unwelcome. Madame Fatale is one of the only, or maybe even the only, cross-dressing hero. While Richard might not have fancy powers, he has the power of theater and acting on his side, and disguise, clearly. Madame Fatale has made the successful transfer to the mainstream universe. Now, instead of searching for his daughter, he is looking for his son, and his Grandma Fit got a serious chic upgrade. Across the board, he has about like 22 to 26 appearances. This Ken's job is annoying. His name is Heckler, and his comics were cancelled too soon. Heckler doesn't actually really have any powers. He is strong and fit with a talent for acrobatics, but that's mainly just him as a person. His superpower is that he is really annoying. He will annoy his opponents until they defeat themselves. He was meant to be like the Bugs Bunny of the superhero world. The Heckler debuted in 1992 for the New Earth stuff, but survived the jump to Prime Earth, debuting there in 2022. Still as annoying as ever. The Heckler is a fun read. It features some of the most unhinged villains I've ever seen. It's also a quick read because it was cancelled before it was fully done. They were cancelled at issue 6, which I hate because they had just started getting into the beginning of like the ending of the story, and then you never find out what happens. The Heckler was part of a hero for hire service some lower ranked heroes put together to make some extra cash. Between the two Hecklers, they have about 17 appearances total. Flying Fox worked with the Heckler at their hero for hire service because he too was an obscure hero that did not get much love. Flying Fox is Canadian, love him already. He is Indigenous and grew up in northern Canada. One day, a bad group of people came by to attack him and his people. Flying Fox did pass away, but then his grandfather revived him and taught him a bunch of mystical art skills so that he could avenge his people. He donned a red fox looking outfit with a cape that was capable of making him fly because it had a flying fox painted on it, and off he went to set things right. He ended up in America and assisted the All-Star Squadron, later joined the Young All-Stars. Flying Fox fought using magic and illusions. He was also able to turn invisible. Flying Fox has more appearances than the Heckler, sitting at about 43 now. Owl Woman has teamed up with the likes of Wonder Woman and the Global Guardians, and yet her character never really picked up steam. She is from America and is also Indigenous. Her real name is Winona Littlebird. She was gifted powers that make her owl-like. She has enhanced senses, like an owl, she can see in the dark. She flies using wind currents, it's very graceful. There was a period of her life where she was under the control of Queen Bee. It wasn't fun, it resulted in the destruction of the Global Guardians headquarters. The only very small upside to the situation was Owl Woman got claws. In total, Littlebird has about 24 appearances. Argus is the name of a decently important agency in the DC universe, which means the hero Argus sometimes gets pushed to the background. Nicholas Kovacs started out as a federal agent, but then he was bitten by an alien parasite, which is surprisingly normal in the world of DC, and that gave him superpowers. Nicholas was part of the New Blood stuff. Nicholas was already a force to be reckoned with without the added powers, but with them, his strength minimum tripled. He also gained the ability to turn invisible, and he had thermal vision. Ever responsible Nick decided to use his new abilities to fight crime and called himself Argus. His weapons of choice were ceramic nunchucks and a hammer. In total, Argus has about 24 appearances. Jack Lansing has my dream job. It is literally listed on his wiki as roving adventurer. Sign me up. Jack was known in the crime-fighting world as Diamond Jack. He debuted in the year 1940 in Slam Bang Comics 1. Jack met an old magician who gave him the gift of a magic diamond that makes its user physically strong and mentally beyond all ordinary mortals. The old magician told Jack he had to help people with the diamond, and that is how Ordinary Jack became a hero. Remember when it was that simple? The jump from like the beginning of everything to now is so huge. Now it's like, I'm a hero because of this specific traumatic event and I got my powers from a massive cosmic blowout, and it used to just be, well, a magician gave me a special rock and now this Ken's job is hero. Jack and the rock are super powerful. He wears it in a ring for dramatic effect, surely. The diamond can turn bullets to flowers, he turns guns to candy canes, he creates mirages and bright lights. It can also heal major wounds instantly and create weapons or other materials. Usually Jack has to shout some variant of a KZ starting word and then stuff happens. The diamond can also change one thing into another, even people. Overall, Jack seems really powerful with his gem, them, and I'm kinda surprised he only has 8 appearances. What I think makes Jack really serious is he will off someone. There are no kill rules here.
Number 10. Danny the Street. Danny the Street is a sentient and living street that provides a safe haven for all of those who've been rejected or cast out by society. While in the comics, Danny identifies as male and enjoys cross-dressing, often decorating his shops in pink and frills. In the live-action series Doom Patrol, Danny is described as being a genderqueer street who uses the pronouns they them. I love Danny the Street. He possesses the capability to shapeshift and teleport, often choosing to move around to places where he's needed the most. In the comics, at one point Danny the Street ends up becoming the headquarters for the Doom Patrol. In the live-action series, Danny is kept live and sustained by an ongoing party. The party is kinda like their lifeblood or their heartbeat, if you will, and if the party dies, Danny's powers fade and eventually so does Danny. Gotta keep the party going for Danny the Street. Also, I feel like there's gonna be people that are gonna be like, Amanda, is Danny the Street really a superhero? And I'm gonna say yes, because Danny is always there for people that need them. So I think Danny the Street should be a superhero. Number 9. Raven. Raven isn't really the most mysterious person on this list, but I think the fact that she often needs to keep her emotions in check pretty much makes her mysterious in a way. I feel like she's a character that brings with her mystery in the sense of the fact that you don't usually know what she's thinking, or sometimes which side she's really on. Raven ultimately is still a hero, but her father is the powerful demon Trigon, which sometimes makes people question her allegiance and is also a reason why she needs to have such intense control over her emotions. Raven is also empathic, which means she can easily sense the emotions of those around her, affect their emotions, and also feel compelled by those emotions or influenced by them. Because of this, she also has to watch out when it comes to her empathic powers, being careful not to let others' feelings and emotions affect her. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list, as I was writing it, I was like, there are so many other mysterious characters that we need to talk about from DC, so let us know you like it by giving this video a thumbs up, and ask for that part 2 down below, because I got a lot more people that I want to talk about. There's gonna be people I'm gonna leave off, and you're gonna be like, where was this person? I want justice for those folks. Number 8. Martian Manhunter. Martian Manhunter is a character who has been portrayed as someone who forgot about all of his past. While we know it now, initially it was a mystery even to John Johns himself. I think I'm saying that right. And there's not only the mystery of his character and history here, but also the mystery that comes with his powers. Martian Manhunter is capable of shapeshifting, which, as we saw in the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League, meant he could impersonate anyone he wanted and even was living in hiding on Earth, successfully integrated into human society as he posed as Lieutenant General Calvin Swanwick within the United States Army and the government. Martian Manhunter in the comics has also struggled with multiple different identities or personas which take him over from time to time, including my personal favorite, Mr. Biscuits. Number 7. Green Lantern. When it comes to great detectives, someone who is just starting out but has amazing potential in the DC universe is Joe Maline, one of the newest Green Lanterns to come into the fold. Joe is the Green Lantern who first appeared in Far Sector, where she became the Green Lantern of a sector so far away it wasn't even numbered, hence the name of that comic, Far Sector. That's all we know it as, is Far. She also appears as a member of an alternate future Justice League that we could be building to still from Future State. Here it's declared that she is the greatest detective in, I'm pretty sure, the known universe, so that could also be a skill set we'll be seeing Joe build towards. It was either the universe or the multiverse, either way it's crazy. Currently, you can get more of Green Lantern Maline along with fellow Lanterns John Stewart, Teen Lantern, and even a little bit of Simon Baz and the rest of the Corps in the current 2021 Green Lantern series Volume 6. Number 6. Elongated Man. The Elongated Man is Ralph Dibny, who among being known as one of the most stretchy and flexible of heroes, is also known as being one of the best detectives amongst the hero community as well. The Elongated Man is considered to be ranked among the greatest detectives in DC. Ralph gets his elasticity powers initially from Gingo Juice, and ends up operating as a detective alongside his love and wife Sue. They would travel the world solving mysteries together. Eventually, Ralph would end up as a member of the Justice League and was mostly known for providing comic relief and his detective skills. Although while great, Elongated Man is still not quite at the level of someone like Batman. Just so you know where he is on the detective pecking order at DC. Number 5. Destiny. I don't know if we count Destiny as a hero. They're kind of more of a neutral force, but one that I would say errs more on the side of good as a member of the Endless. The Endless are a group of beings who represent constants in not only human life, but basically all life on Earth. Destiny is the oldest of the Endless and symbolizes symbolizes and represents the unfolding of events and time, not only knowing the one path of the universe, but all of the potential paths that could be, and then kind of sorting out which way everything is headed. He possesses a giant tome known as the Book of Souls that seems to have recorded within it everything that has been and will be, or could be. Destiny is definitely the most mysterious, as it is more rare for them to appear, and often his purpose feels shrouded in mystery. While they have lots of information about what may come to pass or what is already past, those that meet them are not necessarily privy to all this information, and it's evident that they choose what they believe should and should not be disclosed to the other Endless or any other beings that they interact with. Number 4. Ghost Detectives. I am trying to reflect and discover whether these two had any other names that they went by while in this form, but I think the most accurate one that I can come up with and that I'm finding is Ghost Detectives. That's the only name I have known them by or referred to as, so that's what we're gonna refer to them as for the purpose of this list. If there's another name that I'm missing somewhere, please let me know. This duo is actually the then dead Sue Dibney and Ralph Dibney. The two used to be detectives together, as we already learned, but Sue died in identity crisis with elongated man helping to solve her murder. Eventually, he too would end up dead, and the two would find a way to be together again as ghosties. They could possess the bodies of humans like fellow hero Deadman, and would from then on go about solving mysteries together as ghost detectives. Of course, then New 52 happened, which reset their whole continuity, so I'm pretty sure they're both living detectives once more. I love the idea of them as ghost detectives together still though. Also, Ghost Detectives just needs to be its own series and needs to be a thing again. Ghost Detectives. Someone write that series for me, please. I don't want Sue and Ralph to die, but make them die so they can become ghost detectives. Just for a little bit. Or can we just go back to the other continuity for a moment just for this, please? Number 3. Ambush Bug. Ambush Bug is probably one of the weirdest, mysterious heroes to make it on our list. Erwin Swab, as he is also known, is a teleporter, but even his name is really not 100% confirmed. You see, Ambush Bug is kinda like Deadpool. He suffers from mental health problems, and as such is also hard to believe anything he seemingly remembers or presents when it comes to his true identity. Like Marvel's Deadpool as well, he's also fairly self-aware when it comes to the fact that he is a superhero who exists in a comic book. He often would break the fourth wall and initially started out as a villain in the comics, but then decided to become a superhero instead. Ambush Bug actually predates Deadpool when it comes to his first appearance, first appearing in DC Comics Presents in issue 52 in 1982. But he doesn't predate She-Hulk, who also is known for breaking the fourth wall from Marvel. On the Marvel side of things. Number 2. Detective Chimp. When it comes to solving mysteries, Detective Chimp is considered one of the best detectives we have within the DC multiverse. Initially, Detective Chimp started out as a circus act, performing as Bobo the Detective Chimp alongside his trainer Fred Thorpe. Thorpe made it appear as though Bobo was intelligent and was capable of problem solving, training him to respond to make it seem that way. However, later on, Detective Chimp would actually help solve the murder of his trainer Thorpe, proving that he was smarter than your average chimp. Bobo would also gain eternal youth and the ability to communicate with and speak to all the creatures of Earth, including humans, from the Fountain of Youth. His investigative skills and brilliant mind make him one of the greatest detectives in the world, and perhaps even beyond. It's been implied that he's also a greater detective than Batman himself. Number 1. The Spectre. One of the most mysterious heroes out there has to be the Spectre. While not always using the most heroic method, the Spectre at the end of the day is one of the good guys, though he sure is good at dealing with criminals in horrifying and often permanent ways. The Spectre is an often ominous presence who holds so much power that he usually stays on the periphery, not really getting involved in major plots unless there is a crisis so large it demands his involvement. He is a bringer of justice, and even to this day there are tons of comics featuring the Spectre where his identity has never really been revealed. The Spectre has also been posed as a sort of mantle that can be passed on, almost like a constant role in the universe that must always be filled. Initially it was Jim Corrigan as the Spectre, later on Hal Jordan would take up the mantle, but at one point the Spectre's identity was completely unknown and just kept a mystery. Even the origin of how he came to be at that time was also unknown, and even to this day I don't think we really fully know the story of that Spectre. There's multiple origins and it's which one do you like the best?
Number 10 is Atom Smasher. No, I'm not talking about Atom Smasher from cyberpunk lore. I'm talking about the lesser known Atom Smasher, as in the atomic particle smasher, aka Robert Julian Rothstein, who was a big deal in the DC world literally, not figuratively. Picture this, he's a hero who could grow super big, towering over trees, and packing a punch that could knock anybody out. Now, despite his mega size and power, he didn't get the spotlight he deserved in many big storylines. But there was one storyline where he did in fact prove himself. Atom Smasher did something huge, literally and figuratively this time, by kicking a tyrant out of power in Kahndaq. Leading a team of rebel do-gooders, he flexed his muscles, showing bravery and fought for what he thought was right. His powers on display played a big role in taking down the bad guys, and his actions reshaped the DC universe by returning control to the people of Kahndaq. Atom Smasher might not have been in the headlines all the time, but when he stepped up, he changed the game for the better. At number 9 is Saturn Girl. Saturn Girl is a seriously underrated superhero in the DC universe. She's all about telepathy, a superpower that lets her read minds and communicate without even speaking. But despite her awesome abilities, she's often overlooked, just like the rest of her crew, the Legion of Superheroes. The team doesn't always get the credit it deserves, always living in the shadow of bigger superhero groups like the Justice League or Justice Society of America. But here's the kicker, Saturn Girl once saved the entire timeline. Yeah, you heard that right. A girl who just communicates with her thoughts saved the multiverse. She used her mind mojo to gather every Legion member across different universes to take down the big bad guy, the Time Trapper. Without her, who knows what kind of chaos would have happened. Saturn Girl might not be as famous as Superman or Wonder Woman, but her brain power packs a serious punch when it's used correctly. She's a legend in her own right, even if not everybody knows about it. If you're enjoying this video so far, please support Top 10 Nerd by pressing like, subscribing to the channel, and ringing that notification bell. It helps the video get pushed out to more people, and I would really appreciate it, so do that. Thank you very much. Moving on to number 8, we have Mr. Terrific. Michael Holt, also known as Mr. Terrific, doesn't just juggle lasers like they're nothing. I mean, this guy's got brains and brawn. He's all about saving the day and helping people out, but he doesn't get the credit he deserves. This dude's a top-notch genius and can do some seriously amazing things with his smarts. I'm talking about being the big shot in the Justice Society of America and being labeled as the smartest member ever. Mr. Terrific isn't just book smart though, he's a wizard with tech too. He pulled off some mind-blowing stuff against Brother Eye and saved Selena Kyle's life by putting her heart right where it belonged. Bottom line, Mr. Terrific doesn't always get the spotlight often, but when he does, it's because he's using that epic brain of his to pull off some seriously epic moves. At number 7, The Question. Question is an often overlooked figure, especially the version portrayed by Renee Montoya. Renee, a skilled detective, swaps the comfort of accolades for the shadows of vigilantism, seeking to create genuine change. Despite her remarkable career, the Question remains in obscurity, deprived of the rightful recognition she deserves. Not all strength comes from overt displays of power, as we've just seen. Renee embodies the strength through resilience. After grappling with the toll of her superhero life on her mental well-being, she'd stepped away from the role. But when duty called, she did not hesitate to don the Question's identity once more. Her willingness to confront personal struggles and yet rise to the challenge when needed showcases a different kind of fortitude. Her story emphasizes that strength isn't just about physical prowess. It's about determination to confront the inner battles and still stepped up to protect others when the call comes. At number 6, Vixen's one cool hero you might not have heard much about. She's in the Justice League, but hasn't got much attention as some other big names. What makes her special is how she taps into the powers of animals, like she channels their abilities thanks to this totem passed down through generations. Any animal she could think of, bam, she can manifest the strength of a lion or the speed of a cheetah, and so on and so forth. The latest Vixen, Marie McCabe, has done some seriously awesome stuff, like she became the boss of the Justice League. Leading the top squad of superheroes is kind of a big deal. Only a handful of heroes have ever done that, and like their names are Batman and Batman. And to get the thumbs up from Batman himself to take charge is pretty massive. It shows that she's not just tough, but smart and reliable too. It's like being the team captain of an all-star team. A ton of pressure, but also a big honor. At number 5 is Ragman. Ragman is seriously underrated in the DC universe. He's not in the spotlight much, but he is seriously powerful. Rory Reagan, the guy inside the Ragman suit, can control it like it's an extension of himself. This suit's not just a fashion statement, it's also a serious weapon. It protects Reagan and also kicks some serious bad guy butt. His suit's got this cool power that can absorb the souls of evil people. pretty heavy stuff. Ragman isn't afraid to take on big bad demons. He once faced a whole fleet of demons and saved the Earth, which is definitely no small feat. Even though he did take a beating, he came out on top and really showed how brave and heroic he is. DC should totally give this guy more screen time, as he deserves to be up there with the big leagues like Superman and Wonder Woman. At number 4 is Spoiler. There's no spoilers, don't worry guys. The hero's name is Spoiler. Also known as Stephanie Brown, she might not ring a bell as loud as other big names in the Bat family, but she is a superhero worth knowing about. She didn't just follow in somebody else's footsteps, as she carved her own path. As Spoiler, she stepped up big time, especially when facing off against a colossal baddie named Brother Eye. Now this villain here is no joke, like big league Justice level big. But Stephanie wasn't afraid to take him head on. When Brother Eye tried to mess things up using a different timeline, Stephanie didn't just freak out. Instead, she used that timeline to her advantage, brought heroes from that time to help her out. And if it weren't for her guts and quick thinking, things in the DC world might have turned out totally different. The next time you hear about Bat family superheroes, don't forget to give some props to Stephanie Brown, aka Spoiler, because she's a real unsung hero in the DC universe. At number 3 is Killer Frost. Caitlin Snow, known as Killer Frost, doesn't totally get the spotlight she deserves, although she is kind of heavily featured on this channel. Initially seen as a bad guy, she's been trying hard to change that image. Imagine going from total baddie to trying to do the good stuff. It's a massive leap. Killer Frost wasn't just chilling out, pun intended, as a villain. She had to battle her own past and nature to become a hero. Now what's cool about her is the determination she showed. It's like fighting against the odds, clawing her way out of the dark side. The transformation from an icy antagonist to a legit Justice League member is pretty huge, and not everybody gets that chance. So yeah, Killer Frost might not be as famous, but she's definitely earned her stripes. She's proof that even the chilliest hearts can thaw out for the better. At number 2 is the Human Target. Christopher Chance, better known as Human Target, is a hero in the shadows of DC Comics. His superpower? Transforming into anybody to safeguard important folks. He also has awesome detective skills, which make him a top-notch problem solver. But what makes him truly stand out is his selflessness. He once shielded Bruce Wayne from Deadshot's deadly aim. But he didn't just save the day, he shielded Batman's secret identity too, using his face-swapping talents. Human Target's heroics go unnoticed. He's like his secret guardian angel for all the big shots, and yet few ever give him the applause he deserves. Imagine having the guts to confront a villain like Deadshot, risking your own life just to keep others safe. It's these unsung heroes like Human Target who deserve a spot in the limelight. And coming in at number 1 is Batwing. Luke Fox, as Batwing in DC Comics, is seriously underrated. Now he's one of those heroes who doesn't get enough credit because, well, I mean, Batman's got this big shadow covering everybody else in Gotham. But Luke, he's no sidekick, you guys. He's a force to be reckoned with. There was one time in the comics when Gotham was about to get nuked by the League of Assassins. Now Luke didn't just sit around twiddling his thumbs. No, he got right in the thick of it. I mean, sure, he got nabbed alongside Azrael, but that didn't stop him. After busting out, he used his smarts to defuse the bomb that would have wiped out all of Gotham. It's definitely top-tier hero stuff. It's a shame, really, that more folks don't really give Batwing the credit he deserves, given that, you know, he's hardly the most unique Bat character in all of DC. Yet, he's super awesome. He's not just another guy in a cool bat suit. He's got the brains, the guts, and the will to save the day when it counts the most.